Paul and Barnabas speak now in verse 12. Immediately after Peter, here comes Paul and Barnabas. And all the assembly fell silent. Why? Because truth and love will silence many. Unfortunately, not all, but many will be in awe of the proclamation of the gospel. Watch what happens, because Paul and Barnabas are going to talk now about the power of God, the dunamis, the supernatural dynamite. Verse 12, and all the assembly fell silent, and they listened to Barnabas and Paul as they related what signs and wonders God had done through them among the Gentiles. Here you see Acts 1:8, the power promised is both demonstrated. Paul says, listen, all you had to do was watch, and you couldn't deny God was at work. And I say to you, friends, in many of your lives, you are seeing God at work. Undeniably. One of the greatest blessings you and I have is we are in the midst of His work, in the midst of His power. But more than just saying, hey, you could see God at work in us, he says you could see God at work through us. It wasn't just power on display. There was power of God being received. People were getting saved. Eternity was changing. Dead people were now alive. Blind people were now seeing. Lame people were now leaping. Eternity was impacted. You can't deny this. Paul and Barnabas speaking to the glory and the power of God in them. You see this again in Romans 15, 18, and 19. He makes a direct declaration. God's power was at work through us. Undeniable. Now, as if that weren't enough, James, the apparent lead elder of the church at Jerusalem, he now gets up and he says, definitively, this is the truth. I stand, we all stand with God and His truth as shared through Paul and Barnabas. And as for those some men, even if those of you who are delusional thought they were right, no. Not only isn't that true, it's never been true. Listen, God's word. After they finished speaking, James replied, brothers, again, note the difference. Brothers, not some men, brothers, listen to me. And he now quotes Amos chapter 9. After this I will return and I will rebuild the tent of David that has fallen. The tabernacle's going down, but the tent of David is going to be rebuilt. I will rebuild its ruins and I will restore it, so that the remnant of mankind may seek the Lord, and all the Gentiles who are called by my name. God said back in Amos, I'm going to rebuild at a point so that the nations. You see, this gospel isn't only something that you don't add to or take away from. You don't hoard it. The gospel truth is for the world. This is why, friends, we are an Acts 1:8 church. The gospel is for here locally, there regionally, and everyone globally. It was right from the very beginning. James stands up and says, people, do not forget this. Not only is this true today, it was true yesterday, and it will be true tomorrow and until Christ returns. In verses 20 and 21, to close out our passage, it says, we should write them to abstain from the things polluted by idols, and from sexual immorality, and from what has been strangled, and from blood. For from ancient generations Moses has had in every city those who proclaim to him, for he is read every Sabbath in the synagogues. What James is saying is, listen, there's going to be a weaker brother issue here. Yes, the gospel alone saves, but we're going to ask you, because you're going to now be commingling with Jewish brothers and sisters. Be willing to lay down your rights to champion righteousness.